There was a time when James Harden was the baddest man in the NBA.
Three, did that right before the half, or he could drive on you.
Harden one-on-one here. Yeah, James doubling up the Clippers. Clean up on aisle three. Clean up on aisle three. Someone call someone.
He was flooring people with nasty ankle breakers. His step backs were pretty much unguardable. And he single-handedly forced the NBA to revisit their rulebook because he was so damn good at drawing fouls. On top of that, he was a multiple-time All-Star and a former MVP. And without question, he's already considered one of the greatest scorers of all time during his prime. However, those were the good old days, because the James Harden we knew back then is totally not the same as the James Harden we know now. Because from being called the Beard, he's now turned into the Clown.
Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again.
Somebody that trusts me, that believes in me, that understands me, that I'm just not I'm not a system player. I am a system. You know what I mean? So,
James, you're not the Beard, you're not the system, you're the problem.
I mean, how did James Harden go from being one of the most feared players in the NBA to being a guy who quits on his teammates when things don't go his way? Well, to get to the bottom of this, we must first look back and talk about how he got here in the first place. After drafting Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, the OKC Thunder selected Harden as their third overall pick in the 2009 draft. Right off the gates, Harden showed incredible all-star potential, despite the fact that he was the third wheel of that young OKC squad. In just 2 seasons, Harden ramped up his scoring to 16.8 and won the Sixth Man of the Year award during the 2011-2012 lockout season. The Thunder made the finals that year thanks to their big three, but they didn't get the job done after they got defeated by the much more experienced Heat team, bannered by Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and prime LeBron James. Now, in the following season, OKC wanted to run it back by keeping its core intact. First, they signed both KD and Westbrook to lucrative max contracts, which was the most logical thing to do at that time. And then, they signed their defensive stopper, Serge Ibaka, to a decent deal as well. With 3 out of 4 of OKC's young nucleus locked in, it was Harden's turn at the negotiation table. Despite knowing his real value at that time, OKC lowballed Harden by only offering him $54 million over 4 years, because they would be exceeding the luxury tax if they offered him more than that. Feeling disrespected by OKC's offer, Harden turned it down and instead signed a 5-year, $80 million contract to be part of Daryl Morey's Houston Rockets. Now, I really don't blame Harden for what he did, because at that time, he was really held back by Durant and Westbrook from being a bona fide superstar. And on the other hand, Morey saw the potential in him and just paid Harden the amount that truly equates his talent level. Anyway, moving on here. After getting booted out by his former team in the 2013 playoffs, Harden and the Rockets got a huge reinforcement the following season with Dwight Howard coming in. The scoring prowess of Harden paired with Dwight's defensive presence made the Rockets formidable contenders for the championship. However, their championship hopes were crushed by Damian Lillard and his crazy buzzer beater in Game 6 of the 2014 playoffs. Then, a year after that, they bowed out to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals before suffering an early first-round exit yet again in the hands of Golden State in the 2016 playoffs. Now, reports were saying that Harden was growing frustrated, at that time so much so that he pushed management to fire their then-coach Kevin McHale to ultimately get rid of Dwight Howard as well. Since Morey was a James Harden guy, he followed Harden's request, and just like that, McHale and Howard were gone by the start of the 2016-17 season. Mike D'Antoni was the guy who replaced McHale at the helm, and under his reign, he unlocked Harden to a new level when he played him as the point guard of the team. Though the Beard played at a historic level in his first season under D'Antoni, his effort still wasn't enough to carry the Rockets over the hump, which is why in the 2017-18 season, the Rockets got him another co-star when they traded for veteran point guard Chris Paul from the Clippers. The duo of Harden and CP3 clicked right away, as they went all the way to the Western Conference Finals in their first season of playing together. It seemed that the Rockets were finally getting over that proverbial hump, with one win away from punching a ticket to the NBA Finals. However, the basketball gods had other plans in mind as they struggled from the three-point range in Game 7 against the Warriors, on top of the fact that CP3 was hobbled with an injury in that crucial game. The Rockets ran it back the following season with CP3 and Harden leading the way, but around this time, several reports began to come out that tensions between these two were already brewing behind the scenes, with CP3 saying that he hated Harden when he was not getting involved in the offense when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, while Harden, on the other hand, didn't like how CP3 had been calling the shots and playing the role of a leader on his team. Turns out, the feeling was mutual between the two, and just like what happened with Dwight Howard's chapter, Morey sided with his guy, kicked CP3 out of the team, and in exchange, they got Harden's former OKC teammate Russell Westbrook in return to be his new partner. Things were looking kinda okay with the reunion of Westbrook and Harden in their first run together, as they made it to the Western Conference semifinals in the bubble before losing to the eventual champs, which was the Los Angeles Lakers. But once again, this partnership didn't last that long as well, because right after the bubble season, Westbrook wanted out of Houston, saying that he has wanted to join a team where he can have a role similar to the one he had in OKC, where he was the primary ball handler. And he has been uneasy about the team's accountability and culture following the departure of both D'Antoni and Daryl Morey. Without Morey by his side and no co-star to play with, it was only a matter of time before Harden forced his way out of the rebuilding Rockets. But instead of calling for reinforcements, just like what he'd been doing in the past, Harden decided to group up with Kyrie Irving along with his former OKC buddy Kevin Durant to form the most lethal offensive trio in NBA history over in Brooklyn. In their first run of playing together back in the 2020-21 season, this three-headed monster of Harden, Durant, and Kyrie actually looked good together as they finished the season with a 48-24 record, before being literally an inch away going to the Eastern Conference Finals when KD's supposed to be game winner turned out to be a game-tying bucket instead, as his feet touched the three-point line against the Bucks in Game 7. Now, while this big three looked just fine at first glance, things quickly went south for them the following season, which eventually led to their breakup. I mean, due to COVID-19 mandates, Kyrie was ineligible to play because he was not vaccinated, and he only played 29 games in that season. Now, while this was happening in the background, the ongoing beef between Harden and KD didn't help their cause on the court, as KD reportedly said that he was baffled by Harden's offensive struggles and lack of explosiveness, which he attributed to Harden being out of shape. Harden didn't receive KD's criticism that well, and apparently he was hurt by it. And when he sensed that things were falling apart in Brooklyn, due to the Irving vaccination issues, the injuries that they were having all year round, on top of his petty beef with KD, Harden pressed the eject button once again and demanded a trade to Morey's new team, which is the Philadelphia 76ers. And as we followed the James Harden saga in the last couple of months, the same thing happened again, as he forced his way out of Philly after not getting the huge bag that Morey allegedly promised, then calling out his former best friend a liar in public just for good measure. I really have no idea why the Clippers agreed to trade for Harden given the history that he had, but if things didn't work between them and Harden, then there's no one to blame but themselves, because we've seen time and time again, there's a clear pattern emerging, that when the going gets tough, Harden always points the finger at someone else, but never at himself.